Before we start, just a quick reminder. The views and content shared on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and are not a substitute for professional advice. Please check the full disclaimer in the show notes for more information.
Welcome to Self-Centered, the podcast that's all about you. We're your hosts.
I'm Allie, a therapist and life coach.
And I'm Katie, a fitness coach and personal trainer. We know what it's like to feel burnt out, taken for granted, and like your life revolves around everyone but yourself.
By learning to trust yourself, prioritize your needs, and set healthy boundaries, we help you break free from guilt, overfunctioning, and toxic patterns that keep you stuck in relationships and a life that doesn't truly serve you.
Join us each week as we dive into the tools, stories, and mindset shifts you need to create a life that centers you.
Because being self-centered isn't selfish, it's essential.
Happy official New Year. Everyone else has already had their New Year, but here we are.
I know. Well, they'll be listening to this when it's almost February.
That's right. I'm backwards, but it's exciting nonetheless.
It is exciting. I'm very glad to be done with 2024.
Yeah.
That was, my gosh, that year. I was thinking about where was I? Well, first of all, New Year's Eve is the day my dad died. So that's always an interesting, I'm fine on that day.
Yeah.
But obviously I think of him. But then also last year on New Year's Eve was when my ex was randomly just started crying at dinner before we were supposed to go to a party and was like,
oh, right. I remember you
don't get better. I'm going to have to end the relationship to save myself. And I was like, what? David come from what? From me? What? So, and obviously now I'm not with him. And also I started my business last January.
It was a busy year.
Very, very eventful year. And I'm grateful for it. And I'm glad it's done. It was like the vehicle for getting me to where I am now, which is a good fresh start.
Yes, which is also exciting. You're in your new place.
Yeah.
Because that was something that was talked about on the New Year episode. That was part of the transition period. So that's exciting.
And yep. And still in the transition, but in and fully at the last place.
So exciting. All right. So want to get started?
Yep.
You had the idea this week, and it was prompted by a client of yours. Yeah.
So I was meeting with one of my clients this week, and so we have been working on basically all my clients. We end up working on being more self-centered because that's really, I think that's a lot of the work. But anyway, one of the ways that she is working on that is working on regulating, grounding her emotions in the moment so that she's not hijacked by them, recognizing what's going on in herself, recognizing and understanding the dynamic that's happening with her and her husband, and then communicating in a way that isn't reactive and doesn't escalate the situation. So I was giving her little homework at the end of the session, and she's like, so I just have a quick question. Do real people actually do this? Is this real? Do you do this? And I said, yeah, I do, but it takes so much practice. No one taught me this. I had been going to therapy and therapists didn't teach me this. So I kind of had to figure this out on my own, how to become self-centered. And there's mistakes along the way. You have to practice and learn about yourself. And, it's you can't read a book about learning how to ride a bike and then get on a bike and be like, yep, I can ride it. You get on it and you fall off and you lose your balance. And it's you have to take what people are telling you about how to ride a bike and then try it on over and over again and make mistakes over and over again to fine tune. And then you get to a place where you're confident and then it's autopilot. So that's what I said to her. And then I thought this would be a really good episode for us to do because, another client also this week was and again, she has abandoned herself. And so we're working on her becoming more self-centered and she's coming up against a lot of guilt. And she knows that the reason that she's in the place that she's in is because she has been living according to the expectations and conditions of other people. And so she was like, this is hard and it's going to be hard, but I'm just going to push through and I just have to stop caring what other people think. And it was just this very forceful and, in my opinion, like lacked some compassion and grace for herself kind of approach. And I said, well, yes, it's true. You need to do hard things, but we also understand, that you got here because you were surviving and you're adapting to the situation that you were in. And so it takes some time to unlearn that, and that's okay. So I want you to expect that this isn't going to be perfect, and that's okay. Like, you're going to mess up, and that's part of the process. So I was like, yes, let's do an episode on this to like debunk the kind of sanitized, idealized version of concepts that everyone gives when we're teaching things, and then apply it to real life. So that's what you're going to get
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. I'm super excited for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's start with talking about our own experiences and just kind of the high level, not too much detail, but of like our own process to becoming self-centered and kind of like the phases of that, maybe. Um, so we can each share that. And then I would love to share with listeners with the selfies. Are you
The selfies. I hope you guys are selfies.
I hope you guys are selfies. We're gonna find out. That episode where we asked you if you want to be selfies or not hasn't aired, so we haven't heard from you yet. And then we're gonna give the selfies a way to think about the process to becoming self-centered, so you have a little bit more of a sense of how could this go the best possible way it can go. Like, what are some realistic expectations for myself? What are some things that I can do that will make the process easier? It's something that I wish I had back 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago now, So we'll end with that.
Great.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Sure. We'll send it. So in terms of like thinking about not just how I approached, but like how I felt when becoming self-centered in the beginning, and I put in the beginning in air quotes because it's of course a long journey, but I think about like that transition time where I made the decision versus now. When I first started setting boundaries, learning how to stay in my seat, learning how to communicate better and how to communicate those boundaries, oh my God, it was fucking terrifying.
Do you even know that's what you were doing? Like, what was going through your mind, or what was your kind of understanding of the situation and what you were doing?
Initially, no. Initially, when I was doing it, because I've said this before, but like the biggest turning point for me was, of course, like when I decided to get divorced, like that was the awakening of, oh, wait, I actually have to choose something for myself instead of choosing something for my partner or my marriage. I felt so much guilt, so much guilt, so much guilt, so much shame, so much fear. Like it was just crippling 24/7. So it was a lot. Versus now, of course, when I'm thinking about, okay, if I had to make a really tough choice, I would feel sadness or remorse over a tough choice. But it's not, oh, this is going to be the end of me. Like it truly felt when I was, setting boundaries and making those choices, it truly felt like this might kill me, which feels extreme, but that is how it felt in my body. And even like when I approached those conversations, they really did consume a lot of my thought process. I would constantly like run through the potential scenarios, and it was always the jade, justify, argue, defend, explain. Right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remembered. Awesome.
Very impressed.
But yeah, it was always the jade, especially the defending myself and trying to justify my decisions. I always like ran through every possible scenario that conversation for me to stay in my seat would look like. And now when I have those like same situations, I don't actually have to think of the person's rebuttal. I just think of, oh, this is my experience. And I can be solid in just talking about my experience. I don't have to speak to their rebuttal.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting shift for me because it brings me back to myself.
Mm.
It stops me from going out of my chair and into someone else's experience and trying to bring them to me. It's like, no, actually, I can just exist here in my seat and
Mm.
someone can exist in their seat. And both of those things are totally valid. And it
You
feels so
trust
much better.
yourself and you validate yourself. So it's
Yes.
okay for you to just focus on what's your experience and what is it that you need to stay in your seat, because whatever they say is theirs, right? It's
Yes.
and whatever they say is valid for them. And
Mhm.
maybe the outcome is okay for me to stay in my seat and you to stay in your seat. Well, our seats are in different rooms. Guess we're not going to hang out. Like maybe it's,
Yeah.
but that's okay. And you trust that you can acknowledge and handle that if that were to happen, so you don't have to go through how do I respond to that.
Yes. And it's given me so much appreciation that, yes, in some things, there are black and white situations, but in most things, there's not. In most things, you have your own black and white, but someone else has their own black and white. And then when you come together and try to talk about it, guess what? It becomes gray. And that's
Yeah.
okay. There is no like right and wrong for most things. Each person has their experience and it's totally reasonable and totally valid. And I can stand in that truth and be confident when I come to a situation. If someone disagrees with me, it's not about my worth.
Right. Mhm.
It's just a disagreement and I can walk away from that and still be the same exact person that I feel on the inside
Hmm.
before and after that conversation.
That's awesome. Sounds like freedom.
Oh my God, so much better.
Yeah, it's safe to be you and to take care of you.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
you weren't sure that that was the case.
Right. I mean, prior, it spent so much time and energy stewing and fearful and anxious about
Mm.
really setting any boundaries or having any conversations with people that could potentially go negatively or, that could cause me to have to overextend myself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
What
Okay.
about you?
Yeah. So my process to becoming self-centered similarly started with, something related to a relationship and a big change that needed to happen, which was setting some boundaries with my family. And I guess like in healthy relationships, that wouldn't have been a big change, because in healthy relationships, they would just be like, "Oh, okay, that's your boundary. Cool." Like it was literally like, I'm not going to be able to talk about these topics, or like I'm only going to be able to see you this many times a year instead of this many times a year. And I'd like you to come travel here, the same amount of time that I come to visit you.
Yeah.
But for in a relationship and in a family where that was the expectation was that I'm doing everything, and if I don't, that means I'm selfish, then
Yeah.
that actually is a huge change to say
Mhm.
that, right? And it felt like abandonment and rejection to them. So when I first started setting boundaries, there was a big response to that, and a really negative response. And at first, it was super confusing because I thought, oh, they just don't understand. Like they're misinterpreting this as being rejection, right? Or I don't love them, or I'm selfish, and they're just misunderstanding me and misunderstanding the situation. So I just need to explain it. And I just kept trying to explain and thinking of different ways to explain. And it was consumed my thoughts. And yeah, really trying to understand. It's that experience of leaving myself and my perspective to go get into their perspective to try to figure out where is the misunderstanding so that I can correct it and
Mhm.
clarify. And so I kept trying to do that. And it just kept making things worse because it just got us more in the weeds. So that wasn't good. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do because they're going to think I'm bad. Like, if they misunderstand me and I can't correct this, if we can't get on the same page, then how am I going to take care? Like, my only options are be seen as bad and take care of myself, or don't take care of myself, which I can't keep doing, and be seen as good, but being seen as good is abandoning myself. And
Right.
I truly couldn't do it anymore. So that was really confusing. And it got to this place where I realized, oh, I've been trying to convince them to so that I felt like I had permission or approval. And
Mm.
I have to give myself that. So that was a big milestone in my process to becoming self-centered was, oh, the approval and the permission comes from me.
Yeah.
And what matters isn't actually that they understand me. What matters is that I understand me.
Mm.
And so it's just this, again, keep coming back to yourself, keep coming back to your seat. That's where your power is. And so once I recognized that, it was this kind of like, well, this is going to suck, but I have to do it. So I'm going to do it. And I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. Yeah, it was rough. There was a lot of confusion, continued confusion because I, at that point, knew that I trusted myself, but they were continuing to try to get me to explain myself. And that's when I got to a place where I started learning how to communicate and deal with those dynamics and of not getting reeled in. And like, instead of justifying, arguing, defending, explaining, being like, oh, yeah, we aren't on the same page and we've tried to get on the same page for literally years, and I've worked really hard to figure out how to explain this and we're just not going to understand it. So, there's that kind of acceptance there. And I also realized that, and I realized this in retrospect, but I was very much in that victim role of the drama triangle. So I was literally a victim, right, of abuse and neglect. That's true. However, I was also in a victim mindset. So what I mean by that is that, like, the legitimate and valid ways that I was a victim, that was almost like overgeneralizing into areas where I had power, but it kind of like superimposed this victim mindset on it. So I didn't see where I had power,
Yeah.
even when I did. And so I realized in retrospect, oh my gosh, like I was clinging to that victim role because that in my family, it was like, well, if I'm a victim, then I'm powerless. And then there's no way I could be bad. Like,
Oh, yeah.
because I don't have power. So if I don't have power, I don't have the power to do anything, including something bad.
Yeah.
So me taking a stance and saying, actually, I'm the only one who has to understand me and I can give myself permission. And I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past with the drama triangle, but it was like, okay, I'm going to, my villain era, which not actual legitimate villain, but like being seen as the villain era. So I think it was just this like, there was so much acceptance of the truth and super shitty truth, like the
Hmm.
truth that sucks. And so there was a lot of grief. Um, and I think I was just kind of like, all right, I have to accept that this is gonna suck, but it's gonna be worth it. I was basically like, I don't know if I'm gonna get better after this, but I know I can't keep doing this, so like let's just hope for the best. And spoiler alert, everyone, it does get better, and that's why we're here to help you. So that's why I thought it would be really good for us to be like, wait, here are some of the things that you're going to need to accept. Here are some of the things that that you have the power to change and work on. And here are just some things for you to know so it's a little bit less confusing and you don't feel so alone on this journey so that no one has to suffer as much as you and I did.
Yeah, for real. Because it doesn't have to get to a point where you're asking yourself, am I going to be able to survive after this moment?
Oh my God, yeah.
Like we can be
Yeah,
self-centered
holy
in the
shit.
little things too. And it can be just a-okay and we can feel good about it and just be like, oh, well, it'll either just be kind of sucky or it'll be great. I mean,
No.
yeah, we can make it easier.
Yeah, we can make it easier. So we're going to make it easier for you all. And we've been getting the people in our lives, and we will not use identifying information, but the people in our lives who are listening to the pod have been telling us like there's some people who are trying, their New Year's resolution is to become more self-centered.
Yeah.
There are people who are like, oh my gosh, I realized that I've been so perfectionistic about my resolutions and just my goals in general, even if it's not for New Year's, and, I can just give myself a break. And it's just feeling so good that this is making it easier for you. So let's just keep making it easier for you.
We love that.
All right. So I was thinking about how can I kind of like organize all these things? Because literally, I could probably write a book about what are my recommendations. What's the kind of like toolbox and like book of knowledge that I want to give you on your journey to becoming self-centered. So I was like, I need a way to organize this because otherwise, this is going to be another 2-hour episode and we are trying to be more succinct. So, one of the things I was actually listening to another podcast called Craft Your Money Story. I love it if you're working on personal finance and changing your money mindset, but in an actual concrete, usable way, not just like the universe brings me abundance, like not that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But like here's what you do and here's a way to think about it, like frameworks that are actually really helpful. Go check them out. But they were talking about the serenity prayer. I was listening to this last night and I was like, oh my gosh, that fits exactly what I'm going to talk about. So remove the word God if this does not, fit for you, but everything else can be totally secular. So the serenity prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I was like, oh my gosh, the three things that we are about to talk about with you is accepting the things you cannot change, right? Accepting reality that's hard to accept. And then having the courage to change the things that you can. And then the wisdom between the two of those, right? Because I think we really get tripped up. Like when we are not self centered, when we're not staying in our seats, we have it all jumbled up where we're trying to change things that we can't change,
Mhm.
you know? Um, so let's not get it twisted and let's get you back together. All right. So first, let's talk about what we need to accept. So these are just my thoughts, and then if you want to jump in, Katie, feel free to. Here are the things that I listed. We need to accept people, like just people, how they are, who they are, right? And their level of capacity and their level of motivation to understand and change. We also need to accept their perceptions of us, right? That they might misunderstand us. Of course, do not accept things that you can change, right? So I'm not saying like with Katie and me, if we're having a conversation and she gets confused about something I'm saying, I'm going to be like, oh, no, 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 that's not what I meant. Like, I'm going to clarify, right? So I'm not going to be like, oh, Katie doesn't understand. Guess she's just going to be confused. Like, so that's not what I mean. But when you realize, like, I've been trying to get on the same page with this person, and either they're not invested in understanding me, like they actually don't really want to understand me, or they just don't have the capacity to. Like, again, I was working with another client yesterday, and he was talking about interacting with his wife, and that it was clear that she was super triggered, right? We just had the holidays, very triggering time for a lot of people, especially when you're spending time with your family, but it can also bring up a lot of memories and history that can be really hard. And the way that she was responding to him, he was trying to clarify something. And the way that she kept coming back was like, he wasn't gonna get through to her. And
Mhm.
so I said to him, she's asleep. You're not gonna get through to her. So stop trying, you know? And so that's what I mean. Like, you need to accept that in the moment. And then in his case, like, try again when you're both regulated, right? Also, sometimes people's capacity, like they're just asleep forever, unfortunately. We got a lot of walking zombies around here, and I wish them the best and hope they wake up at some point. So we also need to accept that you're going to disappoint people and they're going to disappoint you,
Mhm.
right? You can't change them. Like, it's your job to see who people are and then decide if you want to be around them more or not, right? Like, what place do they have in your life? So another client I've worked with, she has been consistently disappointed by one of her friends. And there was a lot of resistance to accepting that, right? She did initially try to change it, which is good, right? Because we don't want to accept things we can change. So you don't know if you can or can't change it until you try. So she did try to communicate, but consistently it was like, okay, this person keeps disappointing me in this way. And so I was like, you just got to demote them.
Yeah.
Like, you can't you can't make them meet your expectations. You can just see who they are and how they are in their friendship with you. You can communicate what you want and need. But then if they're not giving you that, then you need to decide, can I have this person in my life at all? Or maybe do I only interact with them in these ways? Like, do I not be as vulnerable around them? Do I consider them less of a close friend? So you're going to disappoint people, but also they're going to disappoint you. And we need to accept them or accept that. And then you can decide what place they have in your life. People are going to misunderstand you. You're going to be the villain in their story. You might be the crazy or over emotional person. You might be too sensitive in their eyes, you know? Um, you're the only one who can change your life. You can't wait for permission or approval from others. You have to just do what's best for you, right?
Mhm.
Just an example I gave earlier. Also, this I think is a positive thing to accept that we have a hard time recognizing. And it has to do with giving ourselves grace and compassion that we're human. So accept yourself and accept that you're human. Accept that you're going to make mistakes. You learn through experience and you learn through mistakes, right? So expect and accept that and make those mistakes as quickly as possible, right? Like, don't be scared of trying. Like, be scared of not making mistakes because that means that you didn't try. So,
Yeah.
the sooner you can make a mistake, the sooner you can learn and the sooner you can move forward.
One thing that reminds me of that you framed to me a few times and was difficult for me to understand in the moment because I had never practiced it, but I think can be really helpful once you practice it. Correct me on my phrasing, but
Yeah.
you have said to me before when I'm reflecting like back on the version of me that was hurt or a version of me that was scared or a version of me that, struggled with something, you ask me, can I go back and comfort that person? Can I go back and meet her? And seeing yourself that way that okay there is this feeling that you as a human are feeling and you are an individual
Mm-hmm.
and visualizing that person because oftentimes us who are trying to be good we have so much empathy for other people but we lack the empathy for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remove this for a moment just for the sake of framework? Can you remove that person for a moment, put her in a body and look at her and say, okay, I can have compassion for you, then bring her back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So being self-centered, again, it's like being centered in your core, authentic self, being centered in your soul. And to me, being self centered means that you're always in that core self where you're observing all parts of you, right? And
Mhm.
so all of those parts of you, yes, they make up you, but who you really are is the observer of them. And you can have a relationship with them and you can check in with them and make sure that they're not alone and you can give them compassion and grace. And yeah, I love that you brought that up. That was actually one of the things that I was thinking about, but I was like, I'm going to try to be succinct. So I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, so it's like, what does that look like in actual practice? It's like, it is what you were talking about, where I'm a visual person. So I'll visualize a little me and like, where do I feel this in my body? Oh, this guilt or this stress or whatever. And okay, it's here. Okay, so I'm imagining there's this little alley there. And if it connects to an age, then I can literally find a picture of myself at that age or just imagine what I looked like at that age. Or like maybe it's my age now, whatever, but it's just a little me. And yeah, it's like pulling them out, imagining that she's outside of me or like on my shoulder or like in the palm of my hand. And it's like I can look at her and see her scared and feeling guilty and like, beating herself up that she's made a mistake or offended someone or whatever and say, and we've talked about this before too, it makes sense you feel this way because blah, 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 past experiences, this is what you learned. And what's really true is da da da, here's the truth, here's the reality, right? And then so it makes sense that like this is where you are. You're in the process of shifting and changing, and that's okay. You
Mhm.
don't know yet. You don't, but guess what? In 5 years, or hopefully less than that, but in 5 years, you'll be able to look back and be like, dang, now you know.
Yeah. And I think that was another thing that came to me for the first pieces of accepting the things that you can't change that you were referring to. There are many situations, and I think many people deal with this, but many situations that I've experienced that I'm like, oh my God, this is consuming my brain. This feels like so much, and it feels like it's going to have so much impact. And now I can't remember many of those situations. Like it really didn't have that much impact. Or if it did, I adapted and now it's a new normal that I'm feeling totally comfortable and confident with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there is that reassurance that there are things that maybe becoming self-centered, the things that you have to act on, they feel really big and scary. And it feels like the impact could be life-changing, either good or bad. Life will continue on.
Well, I think it's like at first it is big,
Mm-hmm.
right? But through practicing, through trying, through experience, through learning and making mistakes and all of this and getting support, you become bigger than it. So
Yes.
then now it's small. I think a good analogy actually could be weightlifting, where it's like at first, I don't know, I don't even know, I don't know, deadlifting. I don't know what's a big
That's a
goal,
big one.
but what's a big like goal weight for that? That would be
Oh God.
with.
Okay, let's go with bench press because bench press is
Okay.
easier. For a cis male,
Okay.
225 is like for whatever reason they have that number in their brain for a
Oh, they
cis
do. That's
male.
funny. Interesting. Okay. So that's if they just go to the gym and they've never lifted weights in their life, right? Then they're not strong, right? So because they're not also doing other active things. They're not out rock climbing for fun or whatever. So they're flabby. They got low muscle tone, right? So flabby McFlabberson is walking to the gym.
You're really going through this.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had a moment. But and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna bench 225." Well, he probably can't do that and or he's gonna hurt himself,
He
right?
will get
You get
stuck under that
I was
bar.
gonna say you get like pinned under there, right? So legitimately, it is hard and it is big. So it
Yeah.
isn't so when you are in the beginning of your process to becoming self-centered, you're not making that up. So that's
Hmm.
another thing that you can validate for yourself. This is a lot. And let me have a long-term view of this. We're growing you. We're growing me, because that part of you is you, right? We're growing ourselves together. We're growing. And so we're going to become stronger and smarter and we're going to master this. So there's so many things in my everyday life that so many weird freaking interactions or people who at first I thought they were a certain way and then I see, oh crap, this is what's going on, right? And that changes how I'm going to interact with them and also the place that I want them to be in my life and kind of the expectations that I like what I expect of them. Not putting my expectations on them, but saying like, what's the reality of what I can probably expect based on what I'm seeing. Um, and I am grateful all the time that I have mastered that, right?
Hmm.
Like I am in this place now where because I just completely understand these dynamics, I can make sense of these patterns in other people. And I know how to handle communication with difficult people. Like I could see them trying to fucking manipulate me, whether they know it or not. A lot of the times, unfortunately, they don't even know it because that's the only skill they have for getting what they want or need because they also didn't have good models, right? So again, I don't even come from a place of judgment on that, but I do come from a place of self protection. Hell no. And it's
Yeah.
also not my job to evolve you. Right. And also, again, I think it helps being a therapist and life coach because I'm like, I literally do get paid to do that. So I know what that is. And I'm not doing that in my off time, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, I hear you. Like at first, it's just like, oh my God. But then in retrospect, you're like, oh, that ain't no thing. But it feels so good too to be like,
Yes.
wow, I just handled this thing that like so easily and confidently and clearly. Like I was so clear about it and trusted myself and I did such a good job with it. And if this were 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago, oh my God, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like I wouldn't have even understood what was going on. I would have been
Yeah.
so disoriented and confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess another one would just be accept that you're in the beginning. So you don't know a lot of shit.
That's so true. That
Right.
is
And that's
so true.
okay. And that's okay. You have to start somewhere. So like it doesn't really make sense to be like, but I want to know more. Because guess what? We can't snap our fingers and do that. We gotta like have experience and put the work in. So,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So the next one is having the courage to change, right? So I'm focusing on the change aspect of this. So this is the things that you can change, doing those things, right? So we have talked on this podcast about boundaries, right? Having healthy expectations, healthy standards. I matter too. Changing your own patterns. So learning how to regulate your emotions and learning how to recognize the difference between signal thoughts and noise thoughts, looking at your beliefs and conditions of worth, right? Like, what do I actually believe? Improving your ability to communicate assertively and set those boundaries. Practicing mindfulness. So, when you notice your brain and your focus going to a place that doesn't serve you and is more likely to send you spiraling and then more likely to abandon yourself, notice it and come back to the focus of things that'll keep you centered and staying in your seat. Keep coming back to yourself over and over again. Also, with change, it means making hard decisions. So, for all of my clients and for your story and my story, Katie, we came to a decision point where it was like, we have to change. And the truth is we didn't actually have to. Like the truth is that we could have not made those decisions and probably would have hurt us. I don't know if either of us would be here truly, but you have to make a hard decision in order to become self centered, you have to do uncomfortable things and you have to make difficult choices, but it is worth it in the long run. And so, my recommendation is to ask yourself, okay, so what do I need in order to make this change? Right. So,
Mhm.
given that it is so scary and it is so hard, what do I need? What's going to support me? Do I need support from friends? Do I need like to get a therapist or get a life coach who specializes in this? Do I need financial security? Do I need to, work on that and get to a certain place before I do this? Before I start this work? Do I need to increase self-trust? Do I need to work on my faith and my connection with spirituality? Do I need to have like a plan for how am I going to cope with this emotionally? Um, do I need a better long-term vision so I actually like can see that this is worth it and going to go somewhere? And I really think it's okay. Like, so a really good example of this is if you're in a relationship that you're like, yeah, I can't stay self-centered in this relationship. Like it's just not possible for me. So I'm going to have to end this relationship, but I'm also not ready yet. It's okay to wait until you're ready. It's
Yeah.
okay to get yourself ready and prepare yourself. I could see the writing on the wall in my last relationship. And I wanted it to work. So, I was open to maybe there will be a miracle and it'll improve. And I was, contributing in the ways that would support it to improve if it were going to. But simultaneously, because I could see there was a good chance that it was also going to end, I was kind of like, okay, I need to make a game plan. And one of the things that I knew was going to be important for me because I was working remotely and so I didn't really have a routine of seeing other people. I knew that that was important, so I went and learned how to play pickleball. And I
Mhm.
became really close with my pickle pals,
Your
which
pickle pals.
my pickle pals is these women for the group lesson that we just all signed up for. We didn't know each other. So we went to the pickleball 101 and they're all older than me, maybe like 10, 20 years older than me, and they're great. And so we did the lesson together and then at the end we were like, "Hey, do you want to get together and practice every week?" And we do, and it's great. And I love it just having that consistent routine, and that's something that really supported me and now continues to.
I love that. I think there's just an awareness of is what I'm doing for support or for distraction?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I had to work through that. And that's where I see people struggle with it with fitness a lot too. Not for the sake of fitness, but using fitness as a distraction as opposed to an opportunity to work towards something.
Mm.
So just making sure that you have the intention of, okay, is this supporting me? make sure it's supporting you, make sure it's not detracting you,
Make sure
make
it's
sure,
not it's not enabling you to avoid, basically.
yes, you don't want it to steal the work that you want to do.
Yeah. And that's a sneaky one too, because I think in the case of fitness, it's like, see, I'm doing something healthy. And I see this too with mental health and with life coaching, um, where it's like, oh, well, I was just reading another book about trauma. And it's like, you mean instead of actually setting boundaries in
Yeah.
your life?
Yep.
And yeah, and we've all been there, so there's no judgment, but it is good. That's a really good thing to recognize. Because and for some people, reading a book about something to get a better sense of what's going on, to orient themselves, learn how to trust themselves, create that long-term vision that they're working for so that they feel like, okay, I got this, I can do this. Great. But if you've been doing that now for 10 years, you don't need another book. You know what to do. Now it's time to face your fear.
Yeah.
Really. And in that case, I think it's probably get support, get a therapist or get a life coach who specializes in that, because you that fear, I don't think you should be alone in
Yeah.
doing it. I mean, you and I were, but you all shouldn't be.
Yeah. Please don't. It sucks doing it that way.
Yeah. But also, we're here for you. Like, that's one of the reasons that I love doing this podcast, is because you truly are not alone. Like, you don't have to go, you can go pay someone, and this is definitely not a substitute for therapy or for coaching. And this is a form of support, you know?
Mhm.
So we're here for you and we love you. And we really, really, really want you to become more you and, yeah, get centered. All right, last one. So this is around the wisdom to know the difference between like the things that you can accept and the things that you cannot change. And so how do you do that? So, I mean, learning, yeah. So we just talked about read the books, right? Listen to Self-Centered with Katie and Allie. But also, you got to get into your internal guidance system, right? And that's in your body, that's in your feelings and your experiences. So you have to slow down. You have to tune in. You got to track what's going on inside of me, right? And getting curious. And if you need help with that, you can get a professional who can help you do that. But you really need to start paying more attention. And I do not mean you need to start thinking about this more. Okay. So that's called intellectualizing. Katie and I are both really good at it.
For
um,
better or for worse.
Yeah. And there is a better and there is a for worse. Like, we definitely don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because thinking and analyzing can be super helpful. And just like the reading another book or working on your fitness, it can get to a point where now it's just avoidance, right? Now it's like, oh, well, I feel too anxious in my body. So I'm just going to get in my head and be like, well, why am I anxious? What do I need to do? Do I need to just take deep breaths? Like, do I need to go read online and go to Reddit and Google like 10 ways to reduce my anxiety? Like, you actually just need to be with your anxiety. You just need
Yeah.
to, you need to make space for it.
So can you make this so obvious as what does this look like? Like if you were to have an experience like this right now where you started to intellectualize, what would you
Ooh,
do?
yeah. Okay.
What are you tuning into exactly?
So if I were working with a client and I was walking them through this, I would be like, okay, let's actually just notice what's going on. What are the physical sensations that you notice in your body right now? And they'll be like, stressed, anxious. And I'm like, if I were feeling anxious the way that you were feeling anxious, what would my body be doing? I want to vicariously feel what you are feeling. And then it'll be like, okay, my chest is tight. It's hard to breathe. I'm sweating. My heart is racing. Okay, can we let that in just a drop more? Can we just make some space for that and be with that? And literally, by making space, it could mean let's just take 30 seconds to sit and focus on all those physical sensations. And also, I really think it's helpful to use the breath. So inhale and literally imagine my lungs, my belly, they're getting bigger to make space for this so that I can be bigger than this experience. And I think of it as when we're intellectualized and we haven't actually made space for this, there's a lot of pent up emotion and experiences. And if we tune into it and then the floodgates open, we can get flooded. So that's why it can be really helpful to do it with a professional who can keep you regulated through that. But here's my recommendation for that. Think of it like a dam that's holding back water, and the water is all the stuff that you haven't felt or sat with yet. We do not want to just blow up the dam and let all the water in, right? We want to just take one brick and pull it out. Okay, so this water is trickling in. It feels really scary because we haven't let ourselves be with that water that's trickling in, but just let a little bit of water trickle in. And okay, what does that sound like in real life? Water trickling in, right? Because that's very abstract. You can distract yourself a little bit. You can literally like hold ice, have a heating pack. You can be walking and listening to music while you're like, okay, I'm going to tune into this feeling in my body. So it's like, instead of having 100% of my focus on just sitting here like a monk and just tuning into my body, it's like, okay, I'm going to tune into my body while I'm doing the dishes, right? Or I think exercise is actually a really good one to use with this,
Yes.
because exercise can be so regulating and empowering. Like, because you can also choose music with lyrics and a vibe that kind of matches how you're feeling. So it can really also release a lot. But when you're exercising, you can be like, okay, I'm going to tune into this a little bit and maybe even use it, right? That's how we prevent ourselves from just blowing up the dam and getting flooded. We take a one little brick out at a time by distracting ourselves a little bit and avoiding a little bit. And I always say avoidance and distraction in the short term and used intentionally is a skill that's super helpful because it keeps us from flooding. And it's okay. It's okay to distract and avoid when you're doing it intentionally. I actually want you to do that because if I say, no, just like strap yourself to a chair and feel all your feelings all at once, you're going to get flooded and it's actually not going to help you. It's just going to re traumatize you and you're going to be like, I'm never effing doing that again. So, giving yourself grace and being gentle with yourself and taking it little bit by little bit is not only feels better, right? Like we don't want to push you through something, but it's also like your brain can only integrate so much. So do you think that answers it?
It does. That's super helpful. And I think it's interesting the way you phrase that about using avoidance and like things to distract yourself in a skillful way, because that also builds reassurance that you can handle emotion.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like many times when we've experienced trauma or we've experienced difficult things, it becomes so overwhelming, you bottle it up and you learn to completely disassociate all the time. And so then something hits you and it's like, oh, well, you can handle anything because you've constantly been disassociating and you've constantly been like blocking out the walls. And then emotion hits you and you're like, nope, I'm not going to let it phase me. Well, then you don't deal with anything. And
Mhm.
if you were to open the floodgates, that would reaffirm, oh shit, I can't handle
Then
emotion.
you literally have a panic attack. And then because you flooded and it re traumatized you, now you're terrified of having another panic attack. So now you're avoiding and distracting all the time. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes. And so doing that trickle method of, okay, we're just going to take one little brick, we're going to feel
Yeah.
the trickle, and I'm going to be productive in how I feel the trickle. That builds the trust in your body that, okay, you can handle emotion and not spiral simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah. That's building resilience. And that's a really good example of how at first feelings feel so big, right? How we were talking about starting the process of becoming self centered. It's like, this is huge. I don't even know if I can do this, right? And I'm so small, But then as you practice something like that, I mean, there's a billion things that you could be practicing, but when you're practicing something like that, you're literally learning how to let more and more in. And at the end of the day, and this is a long-term plan, right? This is not, you're going to take all the bricks down in a week. Like, that's not what we're doing, right? We need time to integrate. And make sense of those things that come up in the water. What does the water bring up in you? But in the long run, what you do is the whole dam does come down, and now the water is just level, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna get flooded or pushed over or pulled down in an undercurrent, a wave of this water, because now you're just standing in water. And
Mhm.
you can be with these feelings that, I mean, there's some of them that feel really good. There's some of them that feel uncomfortable, but you're not scared of them. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could just like swim in this if I wanted to, you know?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that's a lot of what I'm doing with my clients is like kind of like, where are you? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, where are you in kind of your process, and how do I bring you to this? Is just one example. How do I bring you to a place where you're just standing in the water,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and this is why another reason I want to do this episode, because it's like, what we see on Instagram again is just this like idealized kind of sanitized version, and I don't judge it. I mean, like, when we're teaching a concept, we do have to kind of purify it to explain it, but just don't think that's real life. Because you're just going to get down on yourself and criticize yourself. It's actually messier because you're human, and that's okay. You don't
Hmm.
have to just be like, I could do hard things, so I'm just going to feel my feelings. You just need to stop avoiding. It's like, oh God, it's more nuanced than that.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I never would have gone into that if it weren't for you.
I love it. We're a good
Yeah.
team.
And I hope all your peeps listening benefited from that. Yay. Okay, so let's see. Oh, okay. So, yes, in addition to tuning in, slowing down, like feeling these feelings, then it's like we also want to reflect and process with someone, and maybe with ourselves, right? You can journal, you can meditate, whatever works for you, on like making sense of what's coming up for you. And a lot of what's coming up for you is probably also related to the experiences you've had, other people, relationships with other people. So you start making sense of those dynamics and what really happened. And you start to see things more for how they really are, instead of how you saw them when you were disconnected from yourself. And disconnected from yourself could mean dissociated, like you were saying, where you're just intellectualized and avoiding feeling. It could mean that you're in someone else's point of view because you've left yourself, right? But when you come back to yourself, that's when you actually experience your experience. And from a neurological perspective, that is the only way to truly learn and feel truth and know truth, and in your body just know that that's what's true, versus I read about this somewhere or I heard this somewhere, so I know that I'm supposed to set boundaries. I know I shouldn't feel guilty. Oh, I shouldn't care what people think. It's like, we know that, but do you feel that? Do you feel that's true? Do you actually believe that in your body? Probably not. You need to experience and work through that.
So could it be possible that I remember a time for myself where I intellectually knew truth and I consistently acted against
Yes.
what the
So
truth
common.
was that I knew. And I would kept saying, like, I know that, I need to do this, but I keep going back and doing that or this other thing. Is
Yeah.
that probably a sign that I maybe have not chosen to experience and to live in my experience to learn that, oh, yeah,
Yes.
it's not true for you yet because you haven't made it true?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be that you're missing actually experiencing and embodying that experience, meaning being in it instead of thinking about what happened, right?
Hmm.
But it could also mean that you just haven't made sense of it yet, which experience is the first part of making sense of it. But sometimes you need to talk to someone else. Like, I'm an expert in a lot of this stuff, And when it comes to my own life, I have to call you. I have to call someone else. Like, I am like, listen, I'm too close to this and I got all these emotions. Like, there's no way for me to see this clearly. Can you just give me an outside perspective? Like, what are you picking up? What blind spots might be coming up? So, it, I could have done the work to experience it already, but I might still have blind spots in understanding and processing that experience. So it could be either or it could be both.
Got it.
Yeah. Yep. Good question. Let's see. So some of the things that I ask myself or I ask my clients when I'm processing experience is, where is this coming from? Where did I learn this? What do I really believe? But I don't know. I don't even know if I want to prompt that for all of you listening, because that will just get you back in your head. This is why I think it's actually really important to do this work with someone else, someone who's
Yeah.
trained, because your brain can't really be in two places at once, right? So, like, when you're in your experience, you need to be in your experience, and the therapist or the coach needs to be in their thinking analytical mind, understanding what's going on for you in your experience and guiding you where you need to go. So there is a part of that comes at the of the process that comes at the end of feeling and processing your emotions, your physical sensations, your experiences, of putting it into words, answering questions, and reflecting in a more cerebral way. But that comes at the end. And so a lot of the times before we get to the end, I'm deepening the experience with my client. So I'm prompting them to, okay, let's just be with that. Or I'll notice opportunities where they were disempowered, and like maybe a memory is coming up and they were disempowered in that memory. And I can lead them through a visualization and what's called a portrayal of, what if you and I as adults, and again, this is parts work that we were talking about earlier. How about you and I as adults walk into that scene and then you get to stand up for yourself? And I
Mhm.
actually, gosh, so many clients this week that we've been working on this, but I actually did a portrayal with someone this week, and they said to some members of their family when they were younger, no, I don't agree with you and your belief that I should perform and not be myself for you. I'm
Mhm.
not going to act in accordance with your expectations anymore. And as she was talking, I could hear her voice becoming stronger and more firm and more confident. And so for me, it's like, okay, I could deepen this by being like, yeah, you're not doing this anymore, right? Say it again. I'm not doing this anymore. And that neurologically, we are creating new pathways. And then it ended up being like, yeah, fuck you. I'm not doing this anymore. Who I am is okay. And then we got to access some of that anger that it's been too scary to access that anger for so long, because, well, being angry means you're bad in her family, right? And so
Yeah.
that's why it's kind of hard for me to give recommendations on the pod for this specifically, because like you need to be in your experiential part of the brain and kind of like guided to deepen that
Mhm.
experience. And then, yes, you can reflect at the end, and that is important. But it's just one of those things where you can't really do it yourself.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so maybe people listening have never been to therapy, or if they have, they haven't found the right fit for a
Okay.
therapist.
Yeah.
What do they look for?
Mm.
Like, because I remember you and I talked about this when I was trying to find a therapist as well. Like, okay, well, what do I need to look for
Hmm.
in terms of maybe therapy practices or techniques or,
Yeah.
styles of therapy? What might they look for that could help guide them to someone who can help them with this?
Okay. I'm just going to give you a bunch of like keywords and names of therapy.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's
Okay.
great.
Anything with somatic in the name, because somatic is about tuning into the body and the physical sensations. So there's somatic experiencing. There's, oh, what is it called? It's like something motor. We just have such weird frickin' names for things. The one that I do that I really love is called AEDP, which stands for Accelerated Experiential Dynamic Psychotherapy. And that's like a combination of, so this is my description of it, just to be clear, not an official description of AEDP. I think of it as a combination of like somatic experiencing, so that like tuning into your body and physical sensations, parts work with an attachment focus. So helping you become more securely attached, not only to in your relationships with other people, but also with yourself. It's gonna bother me. Let's see. Somatic motor therapy. Maybe it'll show up. Sensory motor psychotherapy. Yeah. Is another one. Let me actually look up somatic. All right. So here's a list. There's somatic experiencing. There's accelerated oh my gosh, ADP, which stands for Accelerated Experiential Dynamic Psychotherapy. There's sensory motor psychotherapy. There's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is EMDR. And there's Gestalt therapy.
Gestalt, like J.
GESTALT.
Got it. Would not have spelled that.
Right. Oh, also internal family systems. That's parts work. Brain spot. We love brain spotting. We know this. I guess for me, it's just, I think it's really important to have a somatic component, to have a parts work component, and also have skills. Like, this is, you're going to be so surprised when I say this, cognitive behavior therapy, or even better, dialectical behavior therapy, which are more skills based. Like concrete, what do you do? Like, what are some, yes, yeah, skills, like tools, like actual concrete things I can do? Because it's like, to me, you want to be able to like work through your experience and make sense of it and develop a better relationship with yourself and your parts. But also, it's really helpful to be like, okay, well, here's a really good skill for communication and setting that boundary. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, we need the abstract stuff, the kind of like brain change approaches, but then we also need the like, what are you going to do? Which I guess is more of kind of the coachy vibe of therapy.
Yeah.
But I think you need all of it. I don't think it serves people to not change their brain and just keep pushing themselves through setting boundaries.
That feels really uncomfortable and
Yeah.
yucky, honestly. Like, because then you would just be constantly feeling shitty about doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like terrified.
Then
Yep.
it wouldn't get any easier, like your client was talking about. Like, it would
Right.
feel hard
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that's so tough is that, you know how with some doctors, you'll be like, oh, here are the things that are going on for me. Something's really wrong. And they'll be like, oh, it's anxiety. Like you just need help or whatever. Or they won't say it's anxiety, but they'll just be like, oh, well, you seem fine though. Like you're functioning well enough. And you're like, but I'm struggling. I kind of think that happens sometimes with some therapists because I've seen when I worked at an outpatient clinic that when certain clients of other therapists weren't getting better, and I only know this because I was doing group therapy with those same clients, they would say to their therapists, I'm still struggling in this area or I need help with this specific thing. And their therapist, kind of because they were a one-trick pony of only knowing these skills-based approaches, would just be like, well, clearly you're not working hard enough, or you just need to keep using the skill over and over again. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
Like, so if that's ever happened to you, just know it's just not a good fit. Just not a good fit. And in my opinion, any therapist who blames you for you not getting better is not a good fit. Because in my opinion, if I have a client who's not getting better and they're like, I don't know, I feel like it's my job to figure out, well, what's getting in the way of that and how do I help you get better? I mean, if I have a client who's like, yeah, I'm not going to do any of the things that you said or work on any of this stuff, and I'm just going to like be mute the whole time, well, yeah, then I can't help you, right? But like, if you're trying and you're motivated to the point where you're like articulating, this is where I'm stuck, please help me get unstuck, it is not your fault that you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
And it might not be the therapist either, but like don't let them blame you, is all I'm
Right.
trying to say. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm very protective of you all. All right. So all that I have left is here are some of the things that you can expect on your journey, like along your journey, right? People might have a bad reaction, and that doesn't mean you did something wrong. It's important
Yeah.
for you to know that. It likely means you're doing something right, because the people that we need to set boundaries the most with are the people who don't respect boundaries. So if they're pissed, it's because you're doing something that takes care of you. Oh, another thing to know is when you first start practicing something new, so let's say that you've been more passive and not standing up for yourself, and then you're trying to become more assertive, you might actually become aggressive initially because again, you haven't mastered it, right? Like with riding a bike, you're trying to learn to balance and you tend to be leaning to the right a little bit. So you're like, okay, I'm going to lean to the left, and you lean to the left too much and fall off, right? But you just figure out going back and forth until you get to, okay, this is the sweet spot. So you can kind of think of it as like a pendulum where in the beginning you're on one side of the extreme, and then when you're trying to learn something new, you kind of swing to the other side, and you're going to swing back and forth a bit until that pendulum just like hangs out in the center. And that's okay. That's so normal. And that's part of the process. That happened for me where I started being like, I'm not going to mask anymore. I'm just going to be completely honest and completely truthful. And you know what? I said a lot of shit I shouldn't have said. I was pretty blunt, and I did not need to be. Did not need
Yeah.
to be. Another example would be I was like, I'm not taking responsibility for other people's, issues anymore. And that led to me just like literally watching people struggle when it wouldn't have harmed me at all to help them, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that's okay. Like, I don't judge myself for that. And you all don't need to either.
What that made me think of, especially around boundaries, is like I struggled as a person that was like a yes man all the
Yeah.
time. And when I pendulum swung, you went from saying yes to everything to saying, no, I already told you this. I
Yeah.
already, like, and
Yeah.
it being frustrating
No
and
one's
getting
respecting my boundaries.
exactly, but also getting frustrated with the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And like you could feel that come through in your voice, then coming back to center of, no, thank you, with a
Yeah.
smile.
Exactly.
And you don't have to explain it. You can just leave it be. Like it's not your responsibility to over explain and to force them to
Yeah.
understand. We've talked about that.
Yeah. And it's like, that's how we learn through experiences. Like, okay, well, that was a little much. What could I tweak next time? It's like these little bitty baby tweaks that we make.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You'll probably feel guilty for setting boundaries, and you're probably not guilty. We have done episodes where we talk about guilt and whether it's a signal or noise. Usually it's a signal, in which case you're not guilty, but go listen back to episode 2. I'm pretty sure it is if you want more around guilt and signals versus noise. Feelings are not facts. So check the facts of the situation to inform what's going on and not, oh, I feel guilty, so I must have done something wrong, right? Similar to other people, just because they're feeling angry doesn't mean you did something wrong. Also, you might have made a mistake and it might be make sense for someone to be angry, but there's a way for people to be angry in a respectful way, right?
Mhm.
So you could have done the worst, thing ever, and you still deserve to be treated with respect, right? So just because someone else might have legitimate anger or justified anger toward you does not mean that you deserve to be disrespected.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it'll be hard at first. And then over time, your choices and the resilience that you build will start to filter out these things that don't take care of you, these things that pull you away from your seat, and they will bring in and allow in and support and nourish the good and the things that take care of you and that are life giving. And so your life will become aligned and way easier, way more supportive. And the goal is to create a sustainable, aligned life. The goal is not to be setting boundaries the rest of your life over and over again with people who are not aligned with you.
Yeah.
And that's all she wrote.
Love it. I feel like that was really helpful, honestly.
Good. Okay, cool. Anything else before we go?
I think that's it, honestly.
Yeah, great.
Let me
Wow.
just say honestly again.
Honesty. Okay, perfect. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram at selfcentered.pod or connect with us at selfcenteredthepod@gmail.com.
Stay self-centered, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.